Hi everyone, it's Jerry. Let's have a look at a game that was played at the 1958 Interzonal. On the white end, many-time Argentine champion Raúl Sanguineti. He won the Argentine championship twice before this game, and he would go on to win it 5 more times. His opponent, 15-year-old Bobby Fischer. Okay, opening-wise, we have an open Sicilian, Najdorf, and f4. Pawn duo after these 6 moves. I have a pop quiz for you. There's something I noticed about this game after going through it 2 or more times. Something stuck out to me, and I'm wondering if you could maybe pick up on the same scent. So I'm just going to throw it to you like this. Not the most common question, to be sure. Here it goes. What does Sanguinetti do on more than one occasion that Fischer does not do through the first 20 moves of the game? This is only a 25-move game, if you're wondering. Okay, we're going to come back to that question. Where do we go from here in this game? A pawn duo is present. Good strategy. Challenge it. e5 on board. Challenge it immediately. Okay, knight f3 is the reply, increasing the pressure on this point. How should you defend e5 here? How would you defend e5? Feel free to pause the video. Okay, here we go. Queen c7. Multi-purpose move. Watch over e5, and watch that this guy doesn't get on this diagonal. Queen has that square covered now. So you don't get that if you simply develop the knight to one of these 2 squares. Queen c7 factors in the bishop move to c4. If it is allowed to get on this diagonal, do know it is eyeing up the weakest square in black's camp, d5. All right, from here, bishop d3, knight b to d7. I believe this is the optimal post for the queen knight for a couple reasons. One is that with this tension, at any point, f takes e can be in there, and a white rook we could foresee one day exerting pressure on the f-file squares, f6 in particular. Well, the queen knight is there, reinforcing this point now. Also, if we throw under the microscope the other option for the queen knight, c6, something you must factor in playing on the black side here is the weakest square d5. You have to anticipate at some point this knight dropping into that point. What's going to happen when the knight arrives there? You pretty much have to get rid of it. It's usually an intolerable piece. How's that going to look? How is your queen knight going to feel when it's on c6? Take on d5, the pawn recaptures. What is that pawn doing? It's attacking your knight. Do you have a good reply to that attack? You should have an answer to those questions before making the decision to go to c6. At the end of the day, in this one, the knights are simply connected. The king side, strengthened. From here, castles, b5. White is drifting towards the king side. These are 2 appealing squares for the queen. And bishop to b7. Notice as soon as the bishop leaves this diagonal, this is where white says, you know what? That f5 square is looking extra sensitive. You're not there controlling that square anymore. Okay. The computer is a fan in this position of staying flexible in a way, making a useful move, getting the king off of this opened diagonal, not yet committing to knight h4. But in this game, white goes straight for this sensitive point on f5. Black cuts that one out. This is under control, but at the same time, weaknesses are now present on the king's side. White says, mission accomplished. I got what I wanted. I provoked weaknesses, so the knight returns towards the center. Bishop g7, queen h4, kingside castles, f takes e, d takes e, and bishop h6, trying to remove a key defender on the king side. Knight h5. cuts off the queen from defending the bishop. Bishop takes bishop. King takes bishop follows. Who is the one who really benefits here because of that exchange? I believe it's really turning out to be black. If there isn't a good follow-up, attacking-wise, for white, it's this positional idea that I think is favoring Team Black in this case. What just happened there with that exchange? We exchanged good for bad bishop. Judging by this central structure and what remains, black has this better bishop in this current position. All right, from here, rook A to D1. Additionally, with no dark square bishops around, look at this square right here, F4. Black hops right to it, and does so only knowing that there isn't a good tactic here for white. What tactic am I talking about? In the game, rook F2 is played. What's going to happen, though, if knight takes E5? This is something Fischer had to first calculate before playing knight to F4. What am I going to do if the defender of my knight is captured? What is the best reply if white is capturing in this way? Feel free to pause the video. Okay, there's only one winning move, and it is knight takes on G2. That's not a 1-point pawn, that's a 2-point pawn. This is considered a winning position now for Team Black. Let's say king takes knight, knight takes knight. Fantastic position here for black. Even an endgame, a position where there are no queens on board, is considered a decisive advantage. This knight is worth far more than 3. Black has a great piece here with the knight on E5, a better structure, a better bishop. Any other continuation in this position, I believe one of the moves was queen E7 at this stage. And even this position right here is considered winning for black. Fantastic piece on E5 in all cases. So, knight takes E5 is met with knight takes G2. Rook F2 in this game, F6. So forget about these tricks working now. Black would simply recapture with the pawn, and this is secure. The pawn with the rook. From here, rook on F to D2, doubling on the opened D file. From here, knight C5, bishop to F1, and B4. So those are the 20 moves. So let's come back to this question I asked earlier. What does Sanguinetti do on more than one occasion that Fischer does not do through these first 20 moves? The answer to that is, Sanguinetti retreats on more than one occasion. Fischer did not retreat at all up until this point. Those add up. I believe it's not the only contributor to this decisive advantage now for black, but it plays a role. He never retreated. He was always in the forward. There was only one move so far by black where he wasn't moving forward, but it was still a move that was making progress. That was when he castled. Every move, though, by Fischer, these first 20 moves, forward moves. I should note that this last move by white is a losing move. The only way to really stay in the game, in the computer's eyes, is to secure this knight, to flick in A3, so the knight is not scared away. Okay, but in this game, after bishop F1 and B4, this is already basically a lost position now. The knight goes into D5, bishop takes knight, still continuing to move forward. Pawn takes bishop, a winning position now for black. Continues to move forward. Look at these knights. 2 knights in white's camp, completely crushing. This rook is completely out of squares now. the knights cover all squares from the d2 rook. There's no fear of any pawn advance. Black still has these checks to get out of that. Black is winning material. This is now a one game. Now, this idea of Sanguinetti making retreating moves, Fischer didn't make any retreating moves. That's not the only thing that factors into this decisive position right now. I believe this play on the king side by white was easily addressed. The exchange of dark square bishops, I believe, ended up just favoring black. And in the end, if there isn't a good follow-up, what is this queen doing over here? On h4, she's a bit just in left field. She's not a great contributor. Additionally, 3 tempi were invested by white to double rooks like this once they were in direct connection with one another. But where are they really going from here? They really don't want to be staring at the back of a pawn like this. They want to have that file opened up. So there's a lot of things that stick out to me. Those are just some of them I wanted to share with you. Now we have a decisive advantage. Loss of material coming up. From here, one more retreating move. The queen goes back, but again, by this point, it's simply lost. There was no way to save the rook. Black is now up the exchange. Queen takes knight. And that right there is the only retreating move by Fischer, but it is a best move in this case. He has a tactic up his sleeve. He's saying, if you take my knight, I'm going to hit you with the skewer and win your rook. So what does white play? He goes with c4, and this does open up the b3 square. So in this position, after queen takes knight, rook here, this tactic wouldn't be there if this pawn wasn't on c2, because the queen could come back and be defending the rook. With c4 in this position, white is threatening to maybe take the knight and come back here, but Fischer at this point simply captures on c3 en passant and says, if you take my knight, it's fine, I'm not going to get your rook, but I'm going to have a one position anyhow. I'm going to have a passed pawn. After this last move, b takes c3, white simply resigns. What's the story in this position if queen takes knight and rook a to d8 and queen b3, in this case defending the rook? Black could simply exchange rooks and then take on b2, completely winning position. The imbalance here is a rook and 3 pawns versus the 2 minors, but soon enough, one of these pieces will have to be sacrificed to stop this pawn from promoting. I'll just give one sample line. If the game continued from this point, let's say bishop there, there's queen c1, there's rook to c8. These aren't the very best moves, but it gets the job done. You could have the exchange of queens, and you could simply promote straight away and win the bishop like this, and of course, completely winning from here. But in this one, after b takes c3 en passant, white throws in the towel. Anyhow, feel free, as usual, to leave any feedback to this video in the comments section below. Hope you enjoyed it, and maybe took a thing or two away. That's all for now. Take care.